What are the main differences between making money as a pickleball player and making money as a tennis player?
You know what? I was talking to Travis Rittmeyer about this, and it's really interesting because if you're not like top 50, I would say a lot of the pickleball players are making more than them on a yearly basis, to be fair.
Yeah, I'm sure
Because
Travis knows a bunch about losing a lot of money in tennis. So he's a perfect reference to chat with about that.
that's comedy. I won't tell him I laughed at that.
It's weird. I think tennis, watching it, seems like people get away with probably a little bit more than they should. And pickleball now is like, you can't even, I like to argue. Don't get me wrong. And I
Yeah.
prefer to say it's having conversations or understanding the referee's rulings, but they're not allowing me to understand where they're coming from. And now these conversations get nipped in the bud. And I'm like, damn.
Tennis, the conversations go a little far. You can talk real crazy sometimes to some refs and get away with it. But pickleball, like, yeah, I think I said ball don't lie, and I got a technical. So I mean, so that's I've been getting my fair share on, and I'm like, oh wow, so I can't say that now. But
Yeah. I'm not gonna lie, dollar has gonna
We can rip it. So where did Zane just ask you, where are you right now?
yeah, I'm in Atlanta. I'm at home right now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Are you officially retired from tennis? I mean, after that mixed
Uh,
doubles run, I feel like, there's a little left of the tank.
Yeah, no, that's it. That was it for me. I was happy to go out kind of like that. I've been asked quite a bit, like if that was it, and no, that was it for me. It was too stressful. It was way more stressful than I remember it being. So I enjoyed it, and that was fun.
Wait, what do you mean by stressful? Just that tournament in
Yeah,
particular?
yeah, that tournament, like everything, maybe because it was my last one, but like everything around it, like the long days, the playing, the anticipation to play, like somewhat of pressure to like hold up and not look bad. It just felt like a bit.
Yeah. Did you feel like you soaked it all in at for the very last time, or do you? Yeah, like walk me through the going into your very last pro tennis tournament and something that's been a huge part of your entire life.
Yeah, no, I soaked it in. I took all the things I could take from my locker, the name tag, like everything. So I got the most. I ate all the good food I wanted to eat at the Open. I really enjoy the kind of the meal prep they do there is like everything that you could possibly want. So I enjoyed that. I really emptied my credential out every day. Saw all the people I wanted to see. Went to the courts. Went to all the not parties, but like the events that went on. I enjoyed it really because I knew it was going to be my last time. With a credential that can get me in the locker room at least to do all of that, unless I was coaching or helping out someone else. So it was enjoyable. I had my family there, friends. I really had a lot of fun. Yeah, I wouldn't take it back for anything. If you were to ask me or tell me that I would have made the finals before I went out, I would have signed up all day. But I initially thought I was going to lose first round. So I just didn't want to embarrass myself. That was the main thing.
That's kind of the best when you have low expectations and everything else is just a bonus from there. You can play pretty free, right? And so
100%. After that first round, I was like, "Oh, this is house money." So it was fun. Yeah.
did you get pretty emotional during your last match?
You know what? I actually did not get that emotional. I got asked that a few times, but it was because I was probably so upset at that point we lost to some extent that because at the finals, you want to win the tournament because at that point you realize it is a possibility. So no, I actually didn't. But I had been pretty emotional for months leading up to it because I had kind of already figured it was going to be what it was in my last one. So I kind of got that out the way, and at that point it was just all about playing and enjoying it.
Yeah, I gotcha. I'm not gonna lie, I cried in my last D3 tennis match.
No, I bet because yeah, if it kind of comes and it's like it's here, it's the moment. But it was like, you know what? If I probably got whooped up in the first round, I probably would have. To be fair, but since it went so far, it was like, oh, this is cool, and I can still play. So it was a good feeling.
Yeah. Dude, it was wild seeing you a week before going to the US Open and you're playing a pickleball tournament. I'm like, Aren't you going to the US Open in a week? And you're like, yeah, I'll go hit a couple balls, next week.
That was in Bristol, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was
so,
Bristol. You're in the
yeah.
middle of nowhere, Tennessee, and a week later you got your first round at the US Open.
Yeah, that was interesting. Yeah, I was able to kind of compartmentalize, the tennis and pickleball all year because I've been practicing and doing both. But to leave and go play the Open was different. To leave from a pickleball tournament and that was the tennis was more natural to me than the pickleball. I actually get a little more stressed playing the pickleball events than I do the tennis because I'm not like as confident in what I can and cannot do yet, and the results, and it's just totally different. So I kind of that was in my realm, and I was comfortable.
Did you see our Instagram post where we put up a news graphic like pro pickleball player makes final of US Open?
Oh man, I definitely saw that. That stirred a lot of controversy. I was getting messages and people were arguing in the comments,
Dude,
and I
so
was
funny.
like,
Yeah, because people think it's like dead serious. It's like we know what we're doing. It's
yeah,
so
tennis
good.
fans are pretty serious and literal, so they couldn't get the joke, but I definitely got it.
Yeah, that was cool. Okay, so
it's pretty elite level trollery.
yeah, no, I mean
really
because
was.
it was just like a standard news graphic, right? Like even the language wasn't. I think maybe there was like a hint of this is kind of sarcastic, but most people didn't pick up on it. When you're walking around the U.S. Open, and like people know now that you're kind of doing this pickleball run, are people bringing that up to you? And then generally in like the locker rooms, like behind the scenes, the tennis players, are they talking about pickleball at all? Like even if they're just shitting on it?
100%. Actually, I got
Okay.
a ton of comments. Like as soon as I walk in, right, it's like, "Oh, is this racket a little too big for you?" It's a bunch of those type of things. You've been swing that lately, like, oh, this court a little big. You've been practicing. It was a ton of that. Like top players, like they were coming at, but they've been following it, which is very, very interesting. Like they're asking me, like, "Oh, what do you rank now? Like, how is it?" They're really, really curious about the whole deal. Like, I had a talk with John McEnroe about it before the semis of like mixed. He was up there warming up, and I'm warming up for my match, and he's asking me about it. And you have Sloane Stevens and Francis Tiafoe, and you got all these guys, Rajiv Ram. Like these guys are like one in the world in doubles, and they're just asking about the pickleball and like what is it like. Coaches are asking me about paddles and how different it is, and they just don't know. And it's really a curiosity thing for them. And I think, and a lot of them have tried it. To be fair, I ask them, and they're like, "Yeah, I've been out there." They don't want to admit it, but I think they like it.
We'll clip that and put that out there for the tennis fans. They'll love that one. Are any of them like genuinely curious? Like, hey, what's the money like? Like, should I make a run at this? Should I do it too?
Oh, they 100%. Like, yeah, definitely the money part because they want to know what's the draw. Like, what is why are you doing it? So for them, they've hearing a bunch of different stories from a lot of different people, and then you get articles about what some of the players are making. So they're definitely looking. It's a different lifestyle, and I think when you play tennis and you do it so long, and then you see something else that's different, but in your mind similar, you're really curious about it.
Yeah. Would you say it's more chill to be a pro pickleball player than it is pro tennis?
Oh, yeah, 100%. Yeah, I mean, just the fact that the travel is way easier. I can stay in the States. I can leave a day before, pull up to the tournament, practice and then play. It's totally different from, the guys are in Shanghai right now. So, where they're going to have to travel like 4 or 5 days ahead of
Yeah.
time just to be there 2 days ahead of time to get ready. So it's just different. And yeah, it's a lot more chill, a lot more welcoming and fun, I would say.
Okay. What are the main differences between making money as a pickleball player and making money as a tennis player? Like, what's the hierarchy of like appearance fees, salary, sponsorships, the other like clinics, maybe events that you're showing up to, and like how do those differ between tennis and pickleball?
That's an interesting question. It depends on where you are kind of in tennis and I guess pickleball as well. But tennis, if you really only making good money if you're like top 100, to be fair, on the men's side. Um, if you're not that, You know what? I was talking to Travis Rittmeyer about this, and um and Brooke Buckner as well. And it's really interesting because if you're not like top 50, I would say a lot of the pickleball players are making more than them on a yearly basis, to be fair.
Yeah, I'm sure
Because
Travis knows a bunch about losing a lot of money in tennis. So he's a perfect reference to chat with about that.
that's comedy. I won't tell him I laughed at that. But it's because you have your coach, you have a trainer, you're traveling across the world, you have to pay all those kind of expenses yourself. Whereas, pickleball, I mean, like you kind of get some help from sponsors, you getting a salary, so it's kind of like guaranteed. You kind of know what you're, pulling up for. Where in tennis, you're pulling up for the first round, but that's it. That could just cover your expenses only, and or not if you have a team with you. So it's like a total different dynamic. Now at the higher levels of tennis, it's totally different. It's not comparable as far as what some of the guys are making, but at that like right outside top 100 to below, I would say pickleball players have a pretty good life in comparison to the stress and not having to worry about you can only get what you eat, what you kill. You kind of know what's going on.
Yeah. I was curious, and I think we asked John about it previously, but like coming from the eat what you kill world, and then pickleball was the same for a while until we started getting these appearance fees and guaranteed salaries. I'm really curious what you prefer, what you think is going to be better for the long term of the sport here. Like, it's obviously super different coming from tennis. What do you think about the guarantees that we have here in pickleball?
Yeah, for me personally, I like it. It's coming to less stressful environment in a sense, and I think as any competitor is like when you get out there, you kind of want to win too. So when you out there, it's like I don't want to lose, but on the other end, it gives you some sense of comfort that like at minimum I'm leaving with this, or this is what it's going to be. So if I had to answer it, if the prize money in pickleball was like there and like higher, and it was a real like reward there, then I would like, the eat what you kill, because it kind of makes it, a little more intense. It gives you something to wake up for. And it's, I enjoy the kind of pressure and the stresses of that to some extent. But on the other end, coming from tennis to this, it's a welcoming, I'm happy about it. I really enjoy just kind of knowing it's going to be, but I do want to win because I'm a competitor. And then, the benefit of winning is your sponsorships and publicity and things around that of that nature.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like, to me, it seems like you are grinding kind of regardless, right? It's nice to get paid, but I think you've had a nice tennis career. You probably did okay on the money side of things. And I remember seeing you, I think it was the Atlanta Open out in whatever that was, like Macon, Georgia, or somewhere not really Atlanta. But I remember seeing you there. I think it was 2022, right? Late 2022, September. Just grinding. I'm pretty sure you played qualies in that tournament, didn't you?
Is it tennis or pickle?
Pickleball.
Oh no, I was there. My dad was working there. He was coaching, and I was training there for a tennis a challenger I was about to go to. And I would happen that he was like, this is pickleball event. It's a crazy cool like show they're putting on, and he was all these posters of you guys, and I was like, oh, what's going on here? So I came out and I was pretty interested out there. This is awesome. It's kind of cool. And at that point, I kind of knew I was winding down from tennis or wanted to. So yeah, I was there and I was watching all you guys. I watched Julian Arnold play. I think he like cramped up a little in one of his singles matches. I watched the Johns play. I had a friend who was playing as well for fun, and so I was just kind of there watching. So I definitely enjoyed. And no, I hadn't picked up a paddle at that point yet, but that
Wait,
was my start.
when did you start? When was your first tournament?
My
Because I
first
thought you played an APP where you were in the qualifiers.
No, my
No?
first tournament would have to have been Palm Springs this year. But I did that bubbly event where with the
Okay.
tennis pros, and I was there and I captained like a team with Anna Lee and some other players.
Gotcha. Okay. Nice, nice. Would you, knowing how much like work some of the other tennis converts are putting in, like what's your training regimen? Like on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being I show up at the tournaments and that's it, 10 being I'm training as hard as I ever did in tennis. Where would you say you're at?
It's not a 1. It's not a 10. You know what? Like, one of a good friend of mine has a ball machine. Like I've hopped on that. I like doing some drills. I get my parents out there because they enjoy still being involved in like the sport aspect. So I'll get him out there and he's feeding me. He's ripping balls at me. So I'm into it. It's not 5 days a week, but it's a good 4. I would say when I'm home, it's a good 4, and you know, it lasts a few hours. And the times I'm playing games, they're lasting 3+ hours when I'm practicing games. So it's fun.
Yeah. Who do you have back in Atlanta? Who's your normal sort of crew that you hit with there?
So I have Alvaro Terron. He
Oh yeah,
he
yeah.
played. Yeah, Alvaro. He lives not that far from me. He's kind of where I started. I have this guy Ken. He wins a lot of the money balls at the PPA. He's from Japan. And then I have Marshall Brown and Rafa
Oh yeah,
live
yeah.
about an hour away. So and they'll sometimes come down and I'll go up there. So we practice a little bit.
Is Ken the dude with like the crazy backhand flick that I've been hearing about?
Yes, yes.
Yeah,
He's
that's the guy.
he's the ping pong champ.
Yeah,
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 yeah.
yeah. That's him. That's him. 100%.
Okay.
That's Ken. Yeah.
I need to
So
get
we
in one
play
of
a
those
lot.
games. I need to learn from that dude.
Yeah, me too. That's what I'm trying to learn. He does it really well, and it seems very natural for him. So yeah.
That seems to be the last thing that tennis players pick up is a backhand flick, right? And I watched a decent amount of your match with you and Julian versus Connor and Tyler, and they were kind of picking you on that backhand spot, those that out
100%.
spot, right? And
Yeah.
you're super comfortable, kind of like cutting that volley, but that's not a super threatening thing, right? As soon as I see
No.
you're up here for that one, I'm like, all right, I can relax, right?
100%. Yeah, I agree with you. That's what I'm working on. Travis says it all the time, and like I try to get my gumptions up to do it, and I'm like, I'm gonna do it, I'm gonna do it, and then I'm like, no, let me go back to comfort. So I'm working on it, and in practice, I'm doing it a lot more. But I just got to figure out the grip change and where I'm going with it. Like that's
Like
my
target.
main. Yeah, like it seems line is a lot easier than cross for me.
Yeah, cross is a really, really flicky shot, right? Line, you can sort of push the way that, we might be a little bit more used to. The cross court, you really have to just all wrist snap it. I'm working on that one too. That's not super natural.
Okay, all right. Good to know I'm not the only one working on it. But yeah, you're probably way further along than I am. But it's definitely a shot I need. I can tell. And, I'm seeing kind of like the things I need to improve from playing and seeing what they pick on. So that's definitely one of
For sure. What else you got? What else you need to work on, you
Yeah,
think?
give me another one. I like this.
them. You know what? Just taking the things out of the air in general to apply some pressure, take some time away. I'm way more comfortable off the bounce, because it's just a more natural like feel, like to back up and hit it. But out of the air is something I'm working on, and just I want to go power. I want to hit it hard through the person, whereas most of the time, or placement could be a lot more useful and beneficial.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you do have power. I was watching that match and I watched some of your mixed doubles matches from this past weekend. I'm like, I don't know if anybody clobbers a forehand harder than Donald Young is right now. Even Jack Sock, Ignatowicz sometimes, but he's not hitting it quite as hard anymore. I think Deckel, when he's really in a good rhythm, is clobbering that ball. But also these guys are taking much bigger swings at it, and you have really sort of compact and explosive power on that forehand side. Anybody else that you think is like up there in terms of forehand power?
Well, obviously, Sock, like, in tennis, that's just, has a quick twitch, just arm and wrist in general. So, yeah, Jack, myself, Deco hits it pretty big when he hits it. It comes off that paddle nice and hot. And then, yeah, there's a few guys. Those guys hit it pretty good. Paddle is, kind of big as well. But for me, it's just it was my best shot in tennis. It's more of a natural stroke, and I hit it pretty quick. Like my arm had always been relatively loose and quick for those type of shots.
Yeah, I think I mean, I keep going back to saying that I think that's the most important thing that translates from tennis is not necessarily how hard overall you can hit a forehand, right? Like if you had Juan Martin Del Potro out there, he can obviously clobber a forehand harder than anybody, but he's got an enormous swing. I think the guys that have that really sort of compact power, like you, Jack, and Nick Kyrgios, I like to see that sort of swing translate a little bit better, I think, to pickleball.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's all like that just quick, yeah, with the forearm, just quick snap. Like it doesn't need to be, because a lot of guys can generate power with a huge swing because that's just what it is, and their string and tension and racket. But just to be able to generate it from like a short, swing is important, and not that many people have that, but some do have it. And it's more like the guys that have a more wristy action, I think, are able to really generate the power fast, and like Thomas over there.
Yeah,
Big
pull the
forehead.
clip.
This is good, dude. Donald, do you want to come back next week?
No, that was fun. We had a lot of fun games out there in Phoenix, though. I enjoyed that.
Yeah, there were some good ones and some not so good ones.
I've seen your highlights on YouTube on that
bro.
backyard court. I don't know whose court that was, but I've seen it.
Klitsch. Yeah.
Okay, got it.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I lose every match I play there. I'm really good at like, you can make highlight tapes of me all day long because I'll do some interesting stuff. I lose every match.
Okay, so the meat and potatoes of it isn't good, but the highlights are good. Okay, got it.
He's in it for the clips.
Right.
Okay. Well, I mean, hey, man, you're in social media. That's what it's all about. People don't watch the whole thing.
One of those basketball YouTubers who's like sick, right? Got millions of followers. You put them in a G League match and they can't score a point.
Yeah, 100%. No, I agree.
That's me. Yeah.
Okay.
So
got it.
I just want to put a bow on what we were talking about earlier. Do you want to look at the camera and state to all tennis players outside of the top 100 that it's time to switch to pickleball because it's more chill, easier, you're going to make more money, and if you're not in the top 100, what are you doing anyway?
No, I can't do that. I love my guys that play, but they definitely should try it and have fun and enjoy it. I think it like tennis, Zane knows, but in tennis, you can't enjoy playing with your friends or people who cannot play. It's not enjoyable at all because they can't rally, they can't get the ball back. You're the one ends up running, they're hitting the fence, and you're chasing balls down. It's just not enjoyable. With pickleball, I feel like you can play with someone who's never played or played a couple times and relatively get some fun and enjoyment out of just hitting the ball back and forth with them because they can do it in rally. So in that sense, I think everyone should try it and enjoy it as whether it's recreationally or whatever you want to do with it. But definitely get out there and try the game. It's a lot of fun.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So Travis is they're building their facility. Sounds like you're doing something similar. You're building yours out in Atlanta?
Yep. In Atlanta, in Peachtree City, Georgia. It's going to be a 20-court facility with the indoor, with the mezzanine that overlooks all the courts, and it's going to be nice. It's going to be the only one on the south side of Georgia, of Atlanta. So we're going to have a lot of fun and really look forward to it. It's a big project and something we've been working on for a couple of years now.
Is it part of one of these franchises, or is it's like its own independent?
No, so it's our own independent. It's called Let's Go. I have a couple partners that are in it with me, and they have different backgrounds. Like one has movie theaters, and that's what he does, and real estate, and the other is really great with franchising companies. So like he's responsible for franchising a lot of the companies and businesses that you see out on the road, on the street.
Yeah, we see there's obviously a lot of different groups going after this, whether it's franchise, multiple owned and operated, whether it's like the individual mom and pop. They kind of range from the bare minimum, which is basically like a warehouse with courts, to I've been talking to some guys who are trying to do this like high end, country club kind of like Equinox style experience. Within that range, like where do you place your facility?
So not the bare minimum, not Equinox, but it's going to be up there. It's going to be a couple $1 million facility. It's going to be cool. So it's going to like be more so catered to like the relatively serious player in a sense, like not so much just joking around, or it's not going to be just couches and games and a bunch of other things around. It's going to be to people who actually want to play, but it's kind of more so on the higher end, but not all the way there. It's not going to be your chicken and pickle or anything like that. But it's going to be a really nice facility that you can come play with the family, get good games, have a stadium court, things like that.
Is there a like little bar area?
We're working on that. Yes, we're definitely working on that. The food part is going to be more grab and go, but the drinks will definitely be there. So
Yeah.
yeah,
We talked to a lot of these guys who are building facilities, and one of the things I always say is like you got to have that one spot where people can go hang and chill and shoot the shit after. Like that's
100%.
you have your pickleball friends. It like gives you that area to hang out. Recap the matches, just kind of mess around, like just hang out with the people. You hear a lot. People have pickleball friends, and it's like you don't know anything about them, but when you get to the pickleball court, it's your best friend. As soon as you walk off the pickleball court, like
They don't exist anymore.
Yeah, right. And like one of the things missing is like, well, you need that additional thing off court where you're like hanging out with these people and actually getting to know them.
No, I agree with you. I'm 100% there. Like that, because there's a lot of times I play, and after they all sit down and have a beer and whatnot, and talk and just talk about life and their kids or family or whatever the situation may be, and you just build these connections and learn about all these people. It's just way more welcoming and opening. I just kind of related to like kind of it's not the same, but similar to like pick up basketball. You just kind of go out to the park and people were playing like, hey, we need a fourth. Do you want to play? And you just can hop in. It's never the case in tennis or where you would play because no one's ever going to just ask you if you want to jump in and hop in because you might not be their level. They have their group of people is pretty closed off. So it's way more welcoming and yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah, you can't. Probably one of the like hurdles tennis has as far as being more widely adopted is you can't just like walk up to a tennis court and get a game. Like
No,
that's very rare. Pickleball, I land in a city, I'm traveling. I'm like, let me just find the nearest pickleball court. I'll just go show up and I'll get some good games. Like that's a very cool thing.
No, I'm with you. That's the coolest part about it. That was how my first, and that's how I even met my partners with Let's Go Pickleball. I was just out there. I was getting ready for the Bubbly event. The PPA was like, "Oh, you've been playing?" I was like, "Yeah, I've been playing. I hadn't really played it ever, but I had like went out there with my paddle from Dick's Sporting Goods and had some balls and was hitting on like an empty court, and some guys walked over and asked, "Did I want to play?" And that's just how it all started, and that's how I met all these guys and my group now.
Yeah. Okay. So we talked a little bit about various pickleball clubs, how they can range, and kind of the market opportunity there, which I think is quite obvious, especially to us in pickleball. So if you've ever thought about investing in pickleball facility, the Pickleball Club is looking for accredited investors. So they're developing a premier membership-based private indoor pickleball facility chain in the United States, and they opened their first one in Sarasota, Florida, in May 2023, and they have 6 more in development across Florida. Florida, obviously, a really hot market for pickleball, but there's an unmet demand for weatherproof indoor pickleball courts. So if they want to have many clubs nationwide and really just like ride the wave of this pickleball growth. They're doing a private offering for accredited investors. So you have to be an accredited investor. Revenue streams are memberships, lessons, events, and merchandise sales. So diversified revenue. And obviously, there's high potential for return on investment. It's a replicable model. Again, they're working on having their 7th club here in Florida soon and going nationwide. And pickleball facilities are pretty stable business. So they offer a strong financial return potential in what I think we all agree is a booming market. So to potentially become an investor in the Pickleball Club, you can go to the pickleballclub.us/invest. That's the pickleballclub.us/invest. And, have a personal stake in the growth of pickleball. Okay, if you hadn't found pickleball, what do you think you would do post tennis?
You know what? I don't know. I know I really enjoy helping kids and like mentor them and getting them out there with tennis and just life in general. So I probably would have done something centered around that. But I was definitely looking for some other outlets. So I was just really happy I found pickleball. I'm still going to do the tennis because I just love playing the game. I love hitting balls. I love going out there and watching and just hitting the ball. It just feels good when you hit it clean. So I still do it, but pickleball is definitely a very welcome sight, and I'm super blessed I found it.
Will there be a tennis court at your facility? Even one?
No tennis court. No tennis court. You go down
Kind
the
of
street
messed up.
that way.
It feels sacrilegious.
Yeah, no tennis
Turning
court.
your back.
Did you didn't feel burnt out at all of tennis at the end of it, even when you decided to retire?
The travel,
Okay.
what went around it, but not playing itself, not hitting the ball and just whatever, just hitting with some friends or whatever. That never felt burnt out. But the politics and what went around it, I was pretty tired of. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, definitely. That's a super important distinction. Is like you're tired of everything that is involved with it, but on the court you had no problem. Like still loved the game, and so that's
Oh,
awesome.
no. Like I would walk around the house just with a racket and just bounce a ball or hit it, whatever. That was always exciting for me. It's something I've done since I was 3, but it was everything else. The way my tennis career started with doing so well as a kid, and then the pressures of it, and then not wanting to play because of whatever reason, and then playing, and then traveling, and the people, and not getting what you wanted out of it, and there's just a lot of that.
Do you can you do, like, if you have a tennis ball and a tennis racket, can you do a bunch of like cool random tricks? Like soccer players kind of like juggle and do, they catch the ball on their back and stuff. Is there a tennis equivalent of that?
Yeah, there are. There's some things people do. They spin the racket. I'm not one of those guys who's amazing at bouncing it on the racket 50 to 100 times, but I can spin it. I can, throw it a few ways and catch it. But that's kind of where I stop. A lot of other people spend more time doing that than me.
Travis isn't teaching you the one with the paddle that he does.
He always does that.
he has been. He's been really trying, and for the life of me, I can't figure it out because I don't have the strings to put my finger into. But he's showing me, and maybe soon I'll actually learn.
I don't think pickleball has like that.
Travis is the only dude who's like doing anything like that,
right? And like Shea Underwood will do random stuff, but nobody's like my little brother. I played lacrosse too. Everybody stands around after practice and does these little same thing with soccer. In pickleball, you don't have that. Guys doing like little tricks on the side of their paddle or catching it in different ways. It's just like non-existent.
That's fair. You're right. I haven't seen that. I only see Travis spinning it. That's right. That's interesting because usually that's, well, maybe it's not that many kids playing yet, because I think most of these things you learn as a kid kind of in your sport, and then you kind of just keep it because you know how to do it.
Yeah, it's the kids who are obsessed with it and like are walking around their house growing up with a paddle in their hands, right?
Right.
Do you think maybe if you learned to spin the paddle, you would have been drafted in Major League Pickleball earlier?
No, absolutely not. I would embarrass myself earlier, so I'm happy it was when I got a little better. But it's a lot of fun to play.
When you were on the outside looking in, you're just starting to get into pickleball. You're like, maybe I'd make a run, take it a little more seriously. Like, who were some of the players that you looked at who were like, oh, I like this guy's game?
Man, quite a few. Actually, because like I'm like a student of the game or whatever I'm trying to do. So I studied like you guys' podcast. I was watching Travis. I was watching Tyler and Jimmy. So I watched Zane play quite a bit because he was playing with like a spinny paddle. They kept talking about how spinny his paddle was and how much spin it got, his Pro XR and the grit. And then when I first got into it, I was pretty cool with the Connor Garnett. He played with me quite a bit, or a few times when he would come to Atlanta, even before I signed, when he would come play a tournament. So he let me hit with his paddle. It had tons of spin. And then obviously you see Ben Johns, and then you see Anna Lee, and then who was the other? Tyson. And there was one other player I got it'll come to me. But yeah, like watching these guys, and then Callie, and then everyone that was kind of like on my team. Like after that experience, I really just started watching everyone and what they did, and I watched their little videos on YouTube or Instagram, and I was just learning whatever I could from that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. So you're like watching these clips, and you're trying to go a level below, like how are they hitting the shot, but maybe pattern recognition. How are they moving? When are they moving off the kitchen line? When are they applying pressure? Right. Like you said, that one of your things you're working on is taking the ball out of the air more and like how that impacts the game and changes the dynamic of offense versus defense. But like, you're trying to watch these clips, consume as much as possible, and just absorb as much of the strategy and technical side.
Yeah, 100%. And one funny story is one of the main things I learned that changed the thing for me was watching Zane had a video on his YouTube, and it was talking about how when you slice, you give the guy more spin when they hit top spin. So that was something, from tennis, I was like, oh man, I'm just going to chip this return and come to the net. And I was doing it in practice against some better players, and I'm like, I'm just getting past like a parked car. Like, what is happening here? So it made me like, I started thinking about it. I was like, oh, that makes sense. Let me try it. And then it changed the whole dynamic of those particular matches. So that was because they were trying to beat me, so they weren't telling me. But when I watched this, it changed my whole perspective on that, and that was big. So those type of things, like just little nuanced things that I'm still learning, but those things that I could learn from watching and listening to someone was very important.
It's kind of fun now because I feel like you're pretty caught up, and now we're all just figuring it out on our own, right? This is still a very evolving game. Not to say that tennis isn't evolving, but it's far further along in its trajectory, right? There's hundreds and thousands and hundreds of thousands of people that are all trying to figure out what the next step in tennis is going to be. There's not the same amount of people doing that work in pickleball, so we're all just kind of in the same boat of, I don't really know what we're doing right now.
Yeah.
And the game is going to look totally different 10 years from now. Just like your friend Ken, who's comes over from table tennis, and table tennis players, I do think, are going to change the way that this game is played, particularly with their volleys. And you've already seen players take that inspiration of a backhand roll shot from table tennis, right? I took ping pong lessons back when I was in Wisconsin before moving here. I'm like, that was the best thing I ever did for working on my backhand flick. I couldn't figure it out before I started taking, well, I mean, I had like a decent enough one, but I couldn't take it to the next level without taking those table tennis lessons.
Yeah. I've seen some clips of like, it's literally instructional pickleball content, but it's all based around table tennis. I mean, there's that famous clip of, famous as far as pickleball goes, but Ben Johns had that ping pong table in his basement growing up. It was up against the wall, and if you were on one side, that meant you had to hit these like short, compact, rolly backhands, and like that's why his backhand roll is so good. Wow. But I think there's a case to be made that like playing table tennis and like getting that repetition could be good for your game.
No, I agree. I think it does, like, because it's just from tennis, it's an unnatural shot to like roll over that with a racket that's that heavy. You just wouldn't do it. It just doesn't make sense at any point in time. So, but the shot makes sense and is a very important weapon in pickleball, because you can disguise it well. Like Ben drops it low, then he flicks up, and you think he's gonna like just dink it, and then he's hitting it at you with spin. It's just a really good shot. And I think, like you said, these shots from these other racket sports or paddle sports are useful in pickleball, because because you can use them all, which is not what you can do in each of those other sports.
Yeah. If you played padel,
I have.
That is a sport where if you try and bring pickleball to the padel court, you are launching the ball.
Dude, I tried to hit a backhand roll in padel.
Yeah, no, that does not work.
I think I almost broke my wrist.
Yeah. And then you end up like hitting, the tendency is to like try and drop it into the kitchen. Doing that on padel court, like people are going to look at you like, what are you doing, you moron? Like, stop.
At the top level, they do some similar stuff, like trying to get it down low where the guys can't.
Yeah, but it's more like the cutty, tennis kind of, you're chopping at it, right? Mm-hmm. There's no rolling.
No, I agree. It's similar to tennis. Like the ball is pretty much the same, with just less air. Like the paddle or the racket that you use is more like firm. It's similar.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So I want to ask you about your experience in MLP so far. Tennis has Davis Cup, and it seems like within pickleball, we're now, it seems like team format is slightly more important in pickleball than it is in tennis, right? And so, meaning like just as a percentage of total tournaments played, right? Davis Cup, and then Laver Cup are the most notable team-based events. But that's maybe 5% of the schedule.
Yeah,
Like
if that. Yeah.
if that, right? And so here in pickleball, you have MLP, which is maybe a third of the schedule. Like, are you liking the team element of things? And as somebody who didn't play college tennis, this is, I suppose, somewhat of a new dynamic.
Yeah, I enjoy it a lot. I had experiences with like Junior Davis Cup, and then I played the Pro Davis Cup. But other than that, no, it's all individual. It's me, me, me. What am I doing? It's all about me. Like if I don't care today, I just don't care today. It doesn't affect anyone else other than maybe my team that I'm like paying to be here. But other than that, but the team aspect of pickleball is totally different. The MLP, yeah, you really, and everyone's job matters. It's like basketball, any other team sport. Like you need to do your job, because if you don't do your job, you're affecting the team and the outcome, and playoffs and their record and all these other things. So, and it's very important for a lot of the players. So for me, it's a aspect that I'm really enjoying, because I like the team aspect of hanging out with the guys off the court, going to the dinners, having someone to practice with all the time, having a doubles partner, learning the fellowship, which is really cool. But it's definitely a different pressure for sure. And yeah, times I enjoy it, times I don't. And then when you lose, it just feels like you're letting people down. I just don't like that feeling.
Interesting. Yeah. So what do you get more like riled up to go to, right? Would you say that you prefer that sort of somewhat change of pace of MLP, or do you like what you're used to, the PPA more traditional tournament format?
Well, I'm really new to the MLP, so the two times I've jumped in, the team was like I think second to last, and then we moved forward, and then we got up to like I think sixth place, and then we had a couple losses. So what I do like about the team a little more than the regular is the Dream Breaker. I think that's really cool. Like that, I get a lot of adrenaline and a lot of like just good feelings for that. It feels like playing like a fifth set tiebreaker at a slam or something like that. That's what it feels like. Like every point matters. It's really exciting. The fans are into it. And it seems everyone is the most dialed in and locked in at that time. And as far as the individual stuff, I feel like it's just you, and the pressure valve is kind of like released a little bit. It's other than when it gets tight, but you have the side out scoring. You can go for a little more. It's just more about how you handle pressure. I think MLP, the difference in the team versus the individual, is like who handles pressure better and enjoys it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, one thing we haven't proposed, which I'm surprised we haven't talked about this before, is there a case to be made that there should be more singles in Major League Pickleball? We've talked about how the Dream Breaker can be kind of gimmicky. I think it's proven to be a very exciting aspect of the game, but it's the only implementation of singles. And Ryan Harwood had a good tweet where he was just like, I mean, basically he was just saying that singles seemingly is becoming more and more exciting, potentially more exciting than watching doubles. Is there a case to be made? And then how would you make it happen that there should be more singles in Major League Pickleball?
Yeah, you know what? I think singles now in pickleball, this is just my take. I think doubles is always going to be like at the top, but I think singles is getting a lot more exciting because of the players that are coming in and the shots that are being able to be hit. Like I think like when the ball's spinning, people are sliding. It's pretty cool. Like it's pretty intense. Like the points aren't as long, but I feel like with the right people playing, it's very exciting to watch, and the crowd seems to ooh and ah, and it's a lot of movement, and you get to see the athleticism of the players and shots. I think it's pretty cool, and if they added some more to it, obviously I wouldn't be upset about it because it's something I do better than I play doubles, but I would like to be a lot better at doubles as well. I just think it's really dynamic depending on who's playing. I think it's all about who's playing in singles, just like it is in tennis, to be fair, or doubles. And doubles is the same way. Like if we have a tournament in Indian Wells, and that's usually when the top singles players jump in and play doubles, and those are the most attended matches. Like on tour, you have Novak and Rafa. They're 1 and 2 in the world playing against the Bryans or someone like that. It's really cool because it's about who's playing on the court. I think it's more so like who's out there.
What do you think, Zane?
I think it could be very cool down the road when we have a deeper talent pool to actually create Major League Pickleball in more of a college tennis scoring format. So in tennis is primarily, I would say, people are playing more singles than they are doubles until you reach a certain age, particularly in junior tennis, right? Everybody focuses on singles, and then doubles is a little bit of an afterthought, I would say. But college tennis, you have 3 doubles teams that basically play for 1 point. So doubles counts for 1 point, and then you have 6 singles matches. So doubles is essentially the tiebreaker, and I think you would flip it here. You have singles as the tiebreaker, and which it is now, which is the dream breaker. But you could have actual matches, right? So me and you play for a point, Donald and Travis play for a point, and then somebody else plays for a third point. I think it could be flipped from what college tennis does, but that would mean expanding teams from 4 people to like 10 people. And I don't think we're quite there yet, but I think that'd be super, super interesting down the road to make actual singles matches part of Major League Pickleball.
Yeah, you have like special Major League Pickleball stops where it's more singles oriented. And everyone knows there's these 2 tournaments per year where singles matters more.
Interesting. So like a reverse, and you played a doubles dream breaker. You played 2 singles matches or 4 singles matches.
I like it.
And a doubles dream breaker, a reverse MLP.
I like it. Let's take our idea to the APP, see what we can do.
That is cool. That does sound cool. Yeah, because that would bring a different dynamic, and then your drafting has to be a little different too. And the people you're putting on your team, it matters that they can play single.
All right, how'd you get hooked up with Proton?
So it started. I think I was playing one of my first 2 or 3 events in Phoenix. But my mixed doubles partner was Angie Walker. So she was with Proton at the time, and at the time I didn't have a paddle sponsor. It was like February, and again I've been going all through like the internet and seeing these paddles, and it was the best spin. It's grabbing the ball, it's doing this, that, and the third, and I just felt like my game was more suited around something that gave me a lot of spin. So I asked Angie, I was like, hey, Angie, can you bring one of those paddles for me to try? Because she was using the series 2 or 3, whatever one. It wasn't the Nanotech one. And I was like, can you bring one of those? She's like, yeah, sure. So she showed up to Phoenix and brought one for me to try. I hit with it, instantly loved the paddle. I was like, how do I get more? She's like, she sent a picture to the owner, who's Charles. And I just got in contact when we started talking. And from there, he came to watch me play. And I was like, can I get another one? He's like, oh, you can have as many as you want. And from there, we kind of built that relationship, and then we partnered up, and the rest is kind of history. And it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, I'm a fellow Proton guy.
Okay, which one you playing with?
What am I playing with? It's the thinner one. I think it's the Series 3.
Okay.
Hold on. I got to make sure I have this right.
You guys are saying Pro XR funny.
I was a Pro XR guy.
Wow, we lost him. Bummer.
Yeah, it's a big hit for the brand. I want to make sure I get this right. Yeah, it's a Series 1.
Okay, yeah. So that's the Nanotech. Yeah, nice.
Yeah. So when we were in Phoenix, we were going to play on the stream and stuff, and then there was some competitions, and I was like, they had obviously a bunch of Proton paddles out there, and I was like, I wanted to win. I was like, can I use my Pro XR? And they're like you can, but you'd be kind of a dick if you did. And I was like, all right, I'll use a Proton, and kind of got hooked, and I've been using different Protons ever since. But yeah, now I'm a Series 1 guy.
Oh, nice. All right, well, welcome to the club. That's good. It's a good paddle. You play with the 11 or the 15?
The 11, whatever the thinner one is.
Yeah, that gets the most pop. Yeah. The Andre.
Well, I think these paddles have a lot more touch. Even like the 11 has a lot more touch than most paddles that are that width or depth. What would I call that?
Thickness?
Thickness?
No, just thickness.
Okay, sorry. Sorry, I'm online too much. But yeah, it's like obviously has a lot of power, a lot of spin, as you said, but still have that touch. But as you know, I'm a highlight guy, right? So I just need to be able to like whip the ball.
Right. That's fair. Yeah, no, I get it.
Yeah.
It's all about the highlights and the 30-second clip.
Okay, so Donald was talking about how he found Proton. It fit his game, and he hasn't looked back since. I also play with Proton. Other pros are Andre Deescu, Megan Dazan, and I think the question is like, have you actually tried one of these things yet? I think the recurring theme is if you pick up one of these and you play with it, it's going to be hard to go back to any other paddle. So I've been playing with it. I think we were just talking about it with Donald. I've been playing with it since that would have been like late June, and I've been using the same one. So these things are like super durable. They hold up. They maintain their spin, and it's just a good balance of like touch, spin, power, which is good for somebody who is very technically unsound, like myself. They also just released their new Series 4 Project Roadrunner. It's made with aerospace grade carbon fiber and exposed Kevlar for sustained spin. This lightweight edgeless paddle features a hybrid core that delivers a soft touch when you want it and power when you need it. As I said, super durable, stays rough for consistent spin even after thousands of hits, which I can attest to. Get yours now and save $25 with our code THEDINK exclusively at pickleballcentral.com. So that's code THEDINK, all caps, one word, $25 off, pickleballcentral.com.
So in recent news, we do have all of the new paddle certification stuff for UPA-A. They announced that on October 2nd. And
it totally flew under the radar.
It completely did. I didn't see it until your newsletter that came out yesterday. I'm like, I texted Jason. I was like, I got to stay up to date on this. Nobody knew about it until you guys put it out there.
They put it out there. It didn't circulate at all. So Jason texted me and was like, hey, we put this out here like 6 days ago or whatever. We're like, oh, all right, let's cover it. Let's write an article and, put in the newsletter and stuff. So now I think people are more aware of it. But yeah, Zane, what are your big takeaways on that?
So basically, the essence of what happened was that they're going to start doing UPA-A certification. We all sort of knew that was going to be happening. They're going to have their own sort of standards and whatnot. And by April 1st, full UPA-A certification is going to be required for any PPA pro level play. And I probably assume that applies to amateur level play as well. Meaning that they're going to be, by that point, completely moved away from USA Pickleball.
That's
and they're
crazy if they do amateur play as well. That's a big change.
Yeah, I actually don't know. Based on that press release, I don't know if that's the.
I mean, it's definitely coming down the road. It's more of a question of like timing, right?
Mm-hmm. So the interesting parts there were that they are going to be implementing a RPM threshold. So spin limits are set to below 2,200 revolutions per minute. And so they're using an output test for that. Yet they're still going to be using an input test for the average deflection force, which is a proxy for exit velocity. I talked to some leadership there, and I think the plan is still to eventually move to an exit velocity test. But basically, I think they're pretty close to moving away from USAP certification, and they announced that they're going to have a flat fee of $20,000 per manufacturer, $5,000 for model, and $1,000 for variation, which is different than that initial $100,000 that had been circulating for some time.
Yeah, it's not insignificant. And if they were to implement that I don't know how they would even be able to test all those paddles in an efficient way to where they're able to get all those through the system and get all these paddles certified in like a reasonable amount of time. Mm-hmm. That's like a big shift. If you're a small paddle brand, you got to pay the $20,000, $5,000 for each model, $1,000 on top of that for each variation within that model. And if people who buy your paddle want to go play PPA amateur tournaments, which is a lot of people, if you take the aggregate of all the tournaments around the country, you might have to go and do that. It's a pretty big investment for a small business.
Mm-hmm. So I do think that the thing that was lacking from this was something that I would guess a vast majority of pro pickleball players were hoping to hear was that we're going to be tamping down on the power somehow or another, which would mean a change in that current measurement of average deflection force, the way that they're measuring it. Currently, they're measuring to 42, which means when you put a weight on this on the paddle, it's the amount of movement that the face has, and you're allowed to have 42 micrograms, I think it is, of movement, or micro. I don't know what the
Aggressions?
measure. Microaggressions. You're allowed to have 42 microaggressions. But I think the one thing that was lacking from this was a statement on the state of power in pickleball and what's going to be done for the future. So, Donald, as someone who is slightly newer to pickleball, and somebody, you did see the huge shift in power even in the time that you've been playing. I'm curious what your thoughts are on all of this stuff. Again, coming from tennis, where you can more or less do pretty much whatever you want with a racket within reason.
Yeah, I actually have, because coming from the start of the year, the Yolas that everyone had, and then going to that mod, and then I started with like a gearbox, but I couldn't get a lot of spin with the gearbox, but it came off hot when I hit it. But yeah, and then I practiced with guys, and now I see the difference. Like, because if my paddle's not like that, and then I'm playing with someone with a mod, I'm like, oh, here we go. Like, it's about to be one of those. And then if they're not like that skilled or in control of what they're doing, it actually is kind of like, you're kind of nervous, and it could be dangerous. I've seen people get hit in the eye and the head, and you're just getting body bag the whole time. It's funny when it's not you, but it's not.
So true.
Yeah, but when it's you over there and you're flinching, because you're a lot closer than you are in tennis. You got to do so much to get the ball. Like, I mean, if someone's hitting 140, everyone can't do it, and it's probably not because of his equipment that he's able to do it. But I think the equipment here plays kind of a big role. It can take someone from being, like, okay. I don't know, for me to say someone's okay, but someone who's like, decent, and they can make them like really good kind of
Mhm.
instantly with a little bit of time and figuring out a paddle that's, that they just have to kind of touch the ball to make it shoot off. So, because the reaction time is so important. And on that, what you were talking about with the UPA-A, when I saw it, it was like, all right, but I didn't get why the spin was capped at such a low rate. For me, I think that brings all the excitement into the game. Like the power, maybe not because the points are ending, but the spin, like you can like wrap the ball around the net, you could get it up and down, you can hit different slices and drop shots. I think that aspect could go up, because that would bring more entertainment and different shots to the game than have previously been able to hit. The power doesn't do much, but other than anyone who's strong enough can just swing at the ball hard enough and hit it hard. But the other shot requires some real skill, because if you can't hit spin, I don't think having a paddle that adds more spin is going to allow you to hit some crazy shot. It's kind of what your technique and what you're able to do.
Yeah, you can get more power easily from a paddle. Like if I switch paddles, I can get more power without changing anything. If I switch paddles, I can't necessarily get more spin, even if I have a 10 times spinnier paddle. I do have to have some changes to my technique, and I have to have an initial technique that allows for use of that as well. I mean, I'm on board with you for spin. I generally think that it's going to make the game more interesting. I will say, to their credit, 2,200 RPMs is about the top level of spin that paddles are creating currently under
Okay.
the normal. So it's not like they're bringing spin level down. They're more or less keeping the top line of spin the same. I would probably agree with you that I'd like to see that bumped up eventually, but it's at least they're not nerfing the spin at the moment,
Okay,
right?
that's good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I like that. As long as they're not like, taking that down, that's fine. But the power could definitely come down, in my opinion. I mean, yeah, because, yeah, then you have to get more skill, actually learn some technique, and just to maneuver and do some stuff other than just swing at it kind of hard, or just tap it and it just shoots off like a rocket.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think I think if we polled like pro pickleball players, I'd be super curious to know where players stand on power. Like I've yet to talk to somebody that's like, yeah, I think we need more power than what's in these current Yolas.
Let's just say we were to put together a survey.
Well, let's put together a survey.
What would be the key questions you would want answered?
Just a general poll on how do you think the level of power with paddles are currently? Like, is it just right, too much, too little? You know, how do we feel about spin? Are there particular paddles that you think are in one that are good or out of line? And where do we think that the thresholds should be set? I think informally, a lot of people have thrown around the top level of power being some of those engage paddles, and anything above that they think is too much. People think that the top level of spin should be set where Pro XR is, and more than that might be too much for the time being. Those are kind of the paddles that I've heard thrown around in that, but you could ask players which ones in particular that they think are too much. I do think that the UPA sent out a survey like this a few months ago, but we never got any results.
Yeah, well, they're
of
not
that.
going to publish it. Maybe we do one of our own.
Let's do it.
Get some insight from around the pro circuit.
I like that a lot.
People feeling. That'd be interesting.
Yeah, it would be.
PPA Virginia Beach. We want to cover that.
Let's do it.
Well, did you guys see the timeout point deduction for
timeout gate?
The Johns Bros, because they walked off the court without properly calling a timeout.
I didn't see that. Really?
Yeah,
dude. So they were up 2-1 against Fed and Big H, and I think they were up 9-6. And Big H and Fed were going on a little bit of a run. They walked off the court instead of calling a timeout, and they got subtracted a point. So they went from 9-8, and from that point on, Fed and Hayden went on, I believe, a 15-1 run.
Well, it was because
it was 5 points there.
I think they won 11-8,
so
and
16,
then they won
16-1, 16-2 run.
So yeah, I mean, it was like a pretty pivotal moment, and definitely like catapulted Fed and Hayden to. And once this is the thing about the Johns Bros.
I think you can say that it catapulted the Johns Bros down.
Yeah, right. No, yes, that's actually probably a better way of putting it. Like, the thing about the Johns is once they get frustrated and upset, and they're like frustrated with each other, it's like no coming back from it. Oof. Donald, you don't have to comment on
that. Yeah, I don't know. I haven't been around long enough.
Donald, what's your take on the Johns Bros and their terrible attitudes?
I can see that affecting you though, from just a athlete or competitor standpoint. Like, you think you're doing something, and all of a sudden it gets taken away.
Yeah.
Kind of annoying.
Yeah,
definitely frustrating. Something
interesting recently is that the pickleball referees have really been like clamping down on behavior, right? And you watch tennis, you can kind of get away with a lot before there's really too many repercussions. There might be fines and whatnot. Like, where do you think the line is there? Like, what should a referee? What should be the protocol for, like, swearing or throwing paddles or not loud enough calling timeout?
Yeah, I don't know. Like, I'm kind of, because tennis, like, the referees get to know, like, it's kind of one-on-one. You're gonna do something, right? Like, you might say something, maybe bounce the racket, and then if it starts getting a little out of hand, you come over you do a changeover, and they're like, "Hey, Don, hey, like chill out a little bit." And then if you don't, or you just do something out of the realm of normal, like hit a ball out, break a racket, then it's an instant warning, code violation. But normally there's some like give there, with something they like kind of let say something like, "Hey, like maybe chill out a little bit." But here it seems like right on top of it. Like, in Atlanta, I hit like a ball, like J-Dub hit like a good drop. I ran there, couldn't get it, so I kind of hit the ball to the back of the court. It was technical warning right away. And then the other one was Travis and I were playing James and Deckel indoors, and I hit a ball into the net after losing a point, and I got a technical again, and I was just like, oh, like, come on, like, how soft is this right now? So I was like, I was pretty upset about it. Like, I was like, this is terrible. Like, you can't do it. Like, it is a professional sport, and you're gonna have emotions to some extent. And the timeout thing, to lose a point over that's interesting. I'll say that.
I guess they had been warned early in the
Yeah,
match.
this is their second warning for
All
it.
right.
They had warned previously. They did it again, and then the second time is a penalty.
Yeah, but then they called a timeout later, and they were so overtly, obviously, just being like, they're doing like the gator chomp just to call a timeout. That was very funny.
Yeah, that's different. Now well, if they were warned, then hey, it is what it is. But the just initially jumping on to the technicals is kind of interesting for me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, it changed the outcome of the match, and I think we obviously don't want refs changing outcomes of matches.
Yeah, but I mean, like that was the guy. Like Don was the one who called it, right? He's the one who's in charge of making these rules, and generally, I think he does a good job of when he is reffing. Like, I think he does a good job of telling people. I think he does a good job of trying not to get himself like involved.
He's not gonna like give you a good call next time you play just because you're saying this, right?
He's not gonna give you a good call anyway. I talk too much shit. I wouldn't want him to give me a good call. I just want those guys to do their jobs. So yeah, but I think it's weird. I think tennis, watching it, seems like people get away with probably a little bit more than they should. And pickleball now is like, you can't even like, I like to argue, don't get me wrong. And I prefer to say it's having conversations or understanding the referee's rulings, but they're not allowing me to understand where they're coming from. And now these conversations get nipped in the bud. And I'm like, damn, it's part of what I enjoy.
Yeah, that's what makes pickleball fun, is kind of the talking, the back and forth a little bit. It's different. It's not supposed to be tennis. It's supposed to be a little more enjoyable. And I think, tennis, the conversations go a little far. You can talk real crazy sometimes to some refs and get away with it. It just all kind of depends on who's there, like in the chair. But pickleball, like, I think I said ball don't lie, and I got a technical. So I mean, so that's, I've been getting my fair share on, and I'm like, oh wow, so I can't say that now, but then I listen to it on this court. I think it just needs to be more consistent.
Yeah, that's true. And then obviously there's huge difference between MLP and PPA at this point on that too. It's like encouraged in MLP, and then PPA, not so much.
Yeah, Travis is, like, he has a lot to say. It's actually entertaining just to listen to him. I'm like, oh man, yeah.
When Travis gets pissed off, there's nothing else like it.
Nothing
else like it.
I guess I didn't realize that the refs were. I mean, you two are feeling this, experiencing it. You have examples of it. From spectator standpoint, I didn't realize they were like clamping down on behavior as much as they have.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this happened, I think, back in like Vegas. So maybe it would have that like a month ago, something like that. Yeah, I don't really know where it came from, but also like we can be kind of assholes to referees. I'm an across the board asshole. Don't get me wrong. I just want them to be at a high. I hold them to a high standard, just like I think we're held to high standards. So
you're a consistent asshole. You want them to be consistent with their calls.
Yeah,
it's just reciprocation.
Yeah.
I gotcha. What else do we have from the Virginia Beach?
Let's see. We had a really good singles match between AL and Brooke. We also had Annalie and Catherine returning to form and just taking it to Rachel and Anna, who had beaten them a couple weeks ago. Another triple crown from AL.
She's pretty good, huh?
She's not bad.
She's okay.
Have you played with her at all, Donald?
When that Bubbly event, she was on my team, but again, I had no concept of what was, like what was what, other than she was holding me up when we played. So
when you played that Bubbly, was that like the best pickleball you had played up to that point?
Oh, 100%. Yeah, yeah, not even close. I mean, and now looking back on the people that were playing, I mean, it was all the top players. Yeah, so no, yeah, 100%. It was the best that I had ever seen or been close to.
Was that like one of those moments where you're like, oh, there's a different level to this?
Oh yeah, for sure. I knew it because I have respect for like anyone who does something professionally and like makes money and wins at it. But being on the court and coming from the people I was playing with to that level, yeah, I really saw it instantly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But you had been playing like rec up to that point. Had you played any like actual tournaments?
No, just rec, just enough to get going with the guys
Yeah.
at the park when I pulled up. Yeah, it was nice.
Okay, speaking about being vocal, Riley and Rafa were getting pretty loud, but they didn't get any technicals or anything like that, did they?
I guess you're allowed to yell.
Yeah.
Wait, no, Riley served before I mean, it wasn't really a technical, but he served before the
Score was
score was called. And then I think Ben and Colin were just like, we don't want to listen to Rafa argue about this for 10 minutes. They just gave him the ball back.
Yeah.
But yeah, lots of round 'em ups.
It is good for the sport, and we need more of it.
100%.
Let's just put it at that. Okay. All right. I think we got through most everything. Anything else?
Nothing from my end. Donald, thanks for coming on, dude. Appreciate you.
Thanks for having me. I enjoyed it. I've been watching you guys, so to be a part of it is pretty cool. Thanks for the invite.
Yeah, definitely. We'll be watching out for you. I stand by what I say. It really does look like you're putting in more time, at least drilling, than a lot of these people who are new to pickleball. And it does seem to me like you've come into it with a very humble attitude, right? And I think that goes a very, very long way in terms of really getting good at this sport in the long term. So excited to see what the next few months hold for you. Hopefully you can carry Travis's ass to a premier finish.
that's the plan. Hopefully I can play my part, and I've been learning a lot from Travis as well. But he gives me crap, I give him crap, and we have a lot of good time. But thanks for that. I'm glad the progress can be seen, and I look forward to continuing it.
Sweet,
cool.
Thanks, dude.
All right, boys.
We'll see you. Hopefully, we'll see you on the court on Thursday.
Yeah, I'll see you there. I'll be there, no doubt.
Perfect. Right. We'll talk some shit to Travis.
100%.
All right, dude. Take it easy.
Later.
Yeah. I'm not gonna lie, rather had fun, yeah.